الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the fiqh and with the mu'amalat where we started last time. We were in the chapter of al-waqf, endowment, and we talked about some of the masail there, one of which is the definition of it. And the two main points of the definition of al-waqf or endowment, which is such an important matter of transactions and contracts that Muslims, it was something that was unique for them. And the statement from Jabir radiallahu anhu, when he said لم يكن أحد من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ذو مقدرة إلا وقف. There was none of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He had ability, financial ability, unless they made waqf or endowment. And the main concept of al-waqf, which is definitely Muslims are in need of it, whether it's in the Muslim countries or in the West, everywhere. This is such a powerful mean of sustaining the needs of the poor, the needs of matters of da'wah in whatever benefit, because the definition is based on two things. As mentioned, تحبيس الأصل وتسبيل المنفعة. And we talked about that. You have an object, you have an item that you would withhold it, retain it, keep it, and you would benefit from it. And the benefit from it that comes goes to whatever sources as it's going to be mentioned inshallah ta'ala, that al-waqif, that the person would give it as waqf, would specify. And that's why the words of the waqif, the words of the person that would give something for the sake of Allah, is like lafdhu shari', is exactly like the deen, like the wahy from Allah, meaning and applying it. You cannot change any of the words of the one that would give something for the sake of Allah. And think of it this way, you know the sadaqah al-jariyah, the continuous charity. As the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنُ آدَمَ انْقَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ. If the son of Adam dies, his deeds will be terminated except from three things, one of which, sadaqah jariyah, which is a continuous charity. The continuous charity, as the ulama they say, is basically what the waqf is all about. You have a continuous charity. If it's in one's lifetime, it's waqf. If someone gives a charitable thing that keeps on continuously bringing its benefit. Dug a well, and he said this well, this water is to be given to the people, to the poor, a place, a building, a land, or whatever, the land when it's rented, all the money goes to the students of knowledge, goes to the poor people, this type of percentages to be given to masajid, whatever there is. And it's a continuous charity. But that building, this well, this car, whatever there is, it is not to be sold. It is not permissible to be sold. This is the meaning of tahbis al-asl. The asl, the thing or the object or the item is to be withheld, to be retained. And the benefit from it is where it's to be continuously given as the charity. If it after one's death, right, then either it's in a wasiyah, and there's differences between the wasiyah and the waqf, or the people after a person dies, they would give on his behalf a continuous charity, which is also something else. But it's in the same concept of the waqf, but after a person dies. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they would do this during their lifetime. If someone has the ability, do it before you die. Do something that people can benefit from it. Allah knows best for how long, when a person is alive, so that it continues after his death. And the real successful one is the one that does not limit his life to these counted years that we live on the face of earth, but rather to have a continuous life with good deeds coming to one's balance of good deeds. We stopped at what he says, mahil al-waqf. Mahil al-waqf. After talking about how to constitute the waqf and things like this. What's mahil al-waqf, which is the sixth point in English?
What is proper to be made now?
What is proper to make as endowment. So the endowment itself, what can be done and be given as endowment or waqf, and what is not permissible to. And it all goes back to the definition. He says in Arabic محل الوقف هو المال الموجود المتقوم من عقار أرضا أو دارا بالإجماع أو many different things. But here it's something that has a monetary value, that it's present, and it has a value, whether it's a building, land, or a structure. And this is with consensus. There's no differences of opinion in this. Basically, you have a land that has a value. You have a building that has a value. You can give this away for the sake of Allah, and we will talk about the conditions that the person that is giving the endowment will specify. Because again, to give it for what? He can specify exactly where the benefits would go. Very specific. And it's up to the person. So whether it's something physical structure, so make sure that you get this clear. أو منقول, something that you can move it from its place. A land, you cannot move the land, right? So something that is fixed, like a land or a structure, physical building or something like that, or something that can be moved, like books. Someone left a library full of books. And this is something that the ulama would do, but after they die, because they need the books. So, or someone would make waqf, a library, for example, of books, endowment for books, something that can be moved from one place to the other, because the waqf is with regards to the books, not the structure that the books are in. Clothing, animals, weapons, things of that nature of benefit. And of course, if it dies, it dies. It doesn't have to stay forever. And this is something also that the ulama mentioned, if something that is disposable even. Can a person give something waqf that is disposable? Like the lamps in the masjid. A person brings some lamps to the masjid for the lights of the masjid, that's fine. Meaning that it is not permissible for someone to take it from this masjid to another masjid because he made it as a waqf for this masjid. This is his intention. So that means it has to be respected, and plus it's used for some time and then it goes bad, then that's fine. So it ends by the way that it's used. And the evidence of the second one, that something can be moved, and one of which is a car, for example. Someone gives a car as a waqf, endowment. I want this van for the Muslims to come to give them right to the masjid in this neighborhood. This car is for this. Can the masjid then use it for whatever other means that they want to use? No. Unless if someone, for example, comes to the masjid, says, hey, I have a van that I want you to use to bring the musallin to the masjid. The people in charge of the masjid, they can say, can you make a little bit room and ease for us? Can we use it to bring some food for iftar? Can we use it to bring some furniture for the masjid? It's only going to be for the masjid, none else. I can say, okay, sure. Or he can say, no, this van is only to be used to bring people to the Saleh. This is what he wants. Then it is to be respected. Then it's not permissible to move anything except human beings to the masjid. This is how the words of the person, whether it's written in a contract or he says it verbally, it is not permissible to change it. It is not permissible even to take his permission later on. This is a very serious one, as it will come. If someone makes a waqf that this land is to be given the benefit of it, say for example, to two of his daughters. We're not talking about justice or injustice, just this is what he did. Can he later on says, no, I changed my mind. And he's still alive. I'll do it for something else. And he made it as waqf. No, it's not permissible. It's forever. The contract of al-waqf is forever. Different than the wasiyah, and we'll talk about the differences between al-waqf and wasiyah. Someone writes his will in his lifetime. Wasiyah meaning after death, to be applied after death. I'm going ahead here. But if someone does this, he can change the wasiyah. It's not aqdun lazim. It's not a aqd or a contract that is binding till a person dies. But for the waqf, once he makes the waqf, it's binding. It cannot be changed. Unless there's harm is going to happen, or it's going to be ruined, or things of that nature, or something that is haram, then the haram is not to be done, of course. But we'll talk about that also, inshallah. So, mahil al-waqf, again, whether it's something physical, that you cannot move it, or something that can be moved, as the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَأَمَّا خَالِدْ فَإِنَّكُمْ تَظْلِمُونَ خَالِدًا فإنه احتبس أدرعه وأعتده في سبيل الله. He says to the people, as for Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh, you are wronging Khalid radiallahu anhu when you talk about him in a negative way, because indeed he is ihtabas. Remember tahbis? He withheld his armor and his equipments for the sake of Allah. It was not known for Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu that he has a place to live. He was constantly going from one battle to the other. And his even armor and things like this was waqf, was all fi sabilillah, does not even own it. Is all, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَإِنَّهُ احْتَبَسَ أَدْرُعَهُ, and this is an evidence where they use it, something moving, not something necessarily is fixed on the ground. And he says, وَاتَّفَقَتِ الْأُمَّةِ عَلَى وَقْفِ الْحُصُرِ وَالْقَنَادِيلِ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ مِنْ غَيْرِ نَكِيرٍ. And the Ummah agreed upon that you can make waqf to the mats of the masjid, the carpet of the masjid. Someone brings a carpet to the masjid, and it's waqf for the masjid. Can that person that donated the carpet to the masjid changes his mind? Says, no, I'll take it to even another masjid. If he brought it to a specific masjid, then it's not permissible to move it to another masjid, unless the masjid does not need it anymore, or is of no use, or something happened to it. Then they can, in that case, move it to another masjid. But this is when things like that happen, it requires a fatwa, which is the mas'ala of it's permissible to sell the waqf sometimes, yes, but in a very limited situations. Again, if harm is going to happen or it's going to be lost. And of course, as the major principle, لا ضرر ولا ضرر, no harm, no acceptance of harm to say, but because it's waqf. So anything, lamps, anything that is given to the masjid is not permissible for a person to take it or to change the waqf whatsoever. And that's why people have to be careful. Those who are in charge of the masajid, they have a huge responsibility. If they, for example, call people to donate money for something that is waqf, they don't say the word waqf as an endowment. We think that endowment is just to build a cemetery or something like this. Masjid is waqf, right? So it applies the rules of the waqf in it. Or they're asking people to donate money because we want to purchase microphones for the masjid, speakers for the masjid. People would give with that intention. These speakers of the masjid is waqf, right? You can move it, and that's why it's waqf. It's part of what can be done as waqf. So if people donated this money and in the category, in the account of the speakers of the masjid, can then the masjid change their minds for no reason, for no valid reason? No, we'll use it for something else. Or they mix it with other money, and it's okay. It doesn't have to be the exact cash that they gave, but people donated 100, so these hundreds are to be only used for what you specified. If you want to make it easy, keep it open. We'll say we want money to have speakers for the masjid and also anything that we see feasible for the benefit of the masjid. So this is going to be then loose as like this. But to be careful, because these are types of contracts. This is a contract. This is a transaction between two parties. And people would give as waqf. And that's why the subject of donating and making sure that we have something in any waqf, this is something that is highly encouraged. And as he says here, it's even permissible, even some of these things has different opinions, but we're not going through this. It's valid for someone to make waqf of hulay, jewelry, for example. Jewelry to be made waqf, that it's only to be used for, specific individuals when it's to adorn themselves, for example, and of course in a halal way, to wear it or to give it. Like say, for example, someone wants to give a waqf, something like this, for when a woman is married, to borrow it for a week. It's waqf for that purpose. Even in the times of early generations of Islam, when there was izdah and things, even they say even for the dogs that were waqf for them, to feed them, or things that people would give for whatever benefit you can think of, that you would find some waqf there, where people would be benefiting for others. Because since something like this, why, as mentioned, لأنه عين يمكن الانتفاع بها دائما. عين, it's a specific object and it can always be benefiting. So فصح وقفها كالعقار. So it's valid to use it as waqf. So it's a serious thing, and we take the principles of it. Then a person would say, I want to make a waqf. Yes, make a waqf as the people of knowledge do the matter in the right way and knowing these principles so that again it's a binding contract. Once it's done, it's not it's not yours forever, and it's to be as you specified in the waqf, and it's one of the source of the good deeds. Then after this is mahil al-waqf. This is what the subjects of waqf can be. So it cannot be something that is does not stay. You cannot make, as we said, you cannot cook biryani, for example, and say this is waqf. Waqf for what? You're going to keep it until it's rotten? People will eat it and it's gone. You can give it for people, hadiyah or charity, yes, but it's not called waqf. Waqf, that means something would stay and then there's benefit comes from it. Even if the benefit does not stay for a long time, but it still applies the waqf in it. So al-mat'umat and mashrubat, things to drink, things of that nature, this does not apply the rules of waqf in it.
Word is perpetual benefit.
Perpetual benefit. No, for the definition. Oh, the tasbil al-manfa'.
Yes, it's perpetual benefit.
Perpetual benefit. So the benefit is perpetually happening, not one time, right? No. But it doesn't have to be forever in the sense that nothing is forever. So شروط الموقف, the conditions of, what's the موقف in English?
This is conditions of for Allah.
What do you call the man or the person that gives an endowment? See, the English, you have to say the one making waqf, right? Can you say that in English? The endowner? I don't know. Here, al-muqif. So that's, we agreed in the beginning, we're not saying endowment anymore. But we know what we're talking about, right? So we have the waqf, we have the place of waqf, we have al-muqif. Al-muqif talks about the individual, the one that is going to give the waqf. So he says يشترط في الموقف شروطا إذا توفرت فيه صح وقفه وإلا فلا. The individual that is giving something as waqf, he has to fulfill certain conditions, exactly as we mentioned in buying and selling. So it's almost the same conditions as mentioned before for those who have the ability to sell something. So first of all, أن يكون أهلا للتبرع, he is someone that fits to give a charity or to give something. So it is not valid to for someone that steals a piece of land to give it as waqf, because it's not his, he stole it. So he has to be someone that has the validity to give something. Or someone, even as he says, ولا من مشتري لم يستقر له الملك استقرارا تاما. Someone purchased something, but it's not yet fully in his possession and in his full ownership. Like there's a period of a condition, like khiyar, as we talked about the khiyar before, that there's still a period of time that one of the two parties can cancel the contract. So you cannot give it for waqf. If he purchased a car, but the deal between him and the seller that there's a month period where they can break the contract. So in that period, he cannot give that car as waqf because it's still things can happen. So it has to be full ownership and he has the validity to give it away. Number two, that he is aqil, he is someone that is sane. So therefore, it's not valid from someone that is insane or retarded or the like of this. The same thing as buying and selling. He has to be balighan, he says. He has to be in the age of puberty. So the waqf of the young child, whether he is mumayyiz or not, it is not valid. Mumayyiz is the one that is 7 and above. That means he knows things, he's able to differentiate things, versus the one that is younger than that. Both their waqf is not valid, right? Because they are not responsible for their ownerships yet. They don't know what's good or bad for them. And that's why if someone is in charge of the wealth of the money of the orphans, for example, he cannot take from it to give as waqf. This is not his money. He's there to take care of it. Number 4, that the person has to be, as he says, rashidan. So someone that is having the wisdom or the ability, not wisdom, but to be rashid, that means it's something extra more than being sane, which means a person is not foolish in a way that he spends the money foolishly. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُؤْتُوا السُّفَهَاءَ أَمْوَالَكُمْ. Do not give the foolish ones your money so that they don't know the value of money, they'll lose it. So someone that the judge had made a rule against him to make hajj, to prevent him from spending his money because he's foolish, he's light-minded, he's not able to, he doesn't know the value of money. Someone like that, he cannot be given anything, one of which is the waqf. Or someone is bankrupt because of, again, the way that he deals with wealth and things like this, or ghafla, or forgetfulness. So these are four conditions that are mentioned for the muqif, or the one that gives the waqf. The last thing, there are many points, but he says here there are more points, of course, but and then after that talks about the difference between the waqf and the wasiyah. But he says shurut al-mawquf. Shurut al-mawquf. Al-mawquf is the conditions of the object itself, the endowment itself. What's the conditions, or some of the conditions for it? So whether it's a building or a land or so, what are the conditions that has to be applied for that place or that item to be given as endowment, as waqf? First of all, it has to be مالا متقوما من عقار وغيره. It has to be something that has a monetary value. And as we see, the word mal, again, as mentioned before, is not necessarily cash money. It's something of value and something that can be appraised. People would say this worth that much. If they put that price on it, people will get and purchase it if they want to sell it. So it has to be something that has value and it can be appraised and the like of this. Number two, has to be ma'luman muhaddadan, well known, very specific. Cannot be loose. Cannot be with any ignorance or any uncertainties. So it has to be this particular building in that particular corner with all of the coordinates of it, and from the city, the title, whatever there. So it has to be something very specific. Cannot be, if it's something moving, cannot be, a person would say, I'm giving as a waqf books. What books? What specific books? What's the name of the books? Not even something that is the title of the book. It has to be the specific item is to be given as waqf. So it has to be known, has to be specific. Number three, and this is again brief, everyone has many details to it. It has to be mamlukan lilwaqif hal al-waqf. It has to be owned by the person giving the waqf when he is given the waqf. So not something that he owned in the past, he doesn't have ownership for it, or he's going to own it in the future. He planning next year to purchase this. So he would say, when I purchase it, it's going to be waqf. Or someone, for example, is having a land and he's going to build a house on it, and his intentions is to make this as waqf, meaning the building that he's going to use for, say, for example, the orphans. Right? He cannot say it in the future, this is going to be the case, and then it becomes a binding contract. No. This is a promise, this is an intention, but it has to be there and it's established, and then he would give it as a waqf for whatever specific reasons. Different than making the land waqf versus a structure is waqf. So it has to be owned by the person when he's given it as waqf. This is three. Number four, أن يكون الموقوف معينا غير شائع فلا يجوز وقف نصيب مشاع. This is a condition that the mawquf, the thing that is to be given for endowment, has to be a specific one. Can you read to me the English translation on number four?
Wealth must be privately owned and not commonly or publicly owned.
Okay, commonly or publicly owned. Commonly meaning that if two partners, two people, they have ownership of a land. على المشاع, meaning that it's a piece of land that is like, say, for example, 10 acres. They did not specify that these 4 acres is for A and these 6 acres for B. They didn't make it like this. They did not put any landmarks or anything like this. They said these 10 acres is both of us, we own it. So there's no specific place or specific part of the land that is owned by one and not the other. So that therefore, a person, one of them cannot give a waqf and says, since we are 50-50 partnership, so I'm giving 5 acres of the 10 as waqf. This is not permissible. Why? Because which 5 acres? Till they put their landmarks and they separate their lands from one another. So this is when people purchase something على المشاع or more than one owner to the place, inheritance, people inherited a house, there are more than one, or a building, right? So it has to be something very specific. Number 5, ألا يتعلق بالموقوف حق للغير, that there should not be any rights for that object to someone else. You know, whether it's, again, it's not being given as a rahn collateral for something, it is not something, land that is stolen, or it's some other people, they have the right to benefit from it. Like he sold the benefit for someone to use the land for parking, for example. So all of these types of things, any rights of others that is attached to this item that a person wants to give as waqf, it is not permissible. Till he's all part of having the full ownership without anything that would threaten the full ownership of it. Few more inshallah ta'ala. Number 6, أن يمكن الانتفاع بالموقوف عرفا, that the benefit, which is what the waqf is all about. So their benefit comes from it is to be specifically given to whoever the waqif or the person giving the endowment to specify. So this mawquf, this object that is being given for endowment, for waqf, has to have a permissible benefit. There's a permissible benefit that comes out of it, not haram, and it has to be benefiting. That means if it's no benefit, what's the waqf then is for? If someone makes a waqf of something that is no benefit to it, there's no point. Or that it brings haram money because it's a winery, for example, or something like this. You know, so it has to be benefiting and has to be permissible. These are the 7 conditions that are mentioned. And then after that, he talks about how to benefit by the mawquf, which is just very simple. بتحصيل منفعة. So the benefit, whether people living in the house or in the apartments that he gave as waqf, or to ride the car or the dabba or the animals that are given for waqf, again, according to what the waqif specified. And it's according to what he says. I'm giving it for this reason, then it's to be used for that reason. Wasuf and the wool and the milk and the, you know, the animals, for example, they give milk, there's eggs, there's things like this. So it's also to be used for what? All of that is to be specified by al-waqif. So the benefit. So we have an item to be given and the benefits of it. The item is very specific, well detailed of what this item is, specific item, what does it look like, all the things that would remove any uncertainties or any deceptions. And then what is the benefit of it? And to make sure that the benefit is halal, permissible, and what these benefits will go to where, what exactly the specific details of it, so that nothing is ambiguous also. Everything is clear, so how it's going to be used. Right? And this is again, brief, but it shows the importance of it. And again, it's an encouragement since we learn something. If a person has the means, we should do what the Sahaba used to do something as waqf. Even if it's, you don't have to be the only, donor of the waqf. People can get together and give something for waqf, because once they get together, if they are partners in it and they give it as waqf, it's not theirs anymore, right? So they're not going to fight later on as ownership of any business transaction. So don't worry about the partnership. You just get together to have the means to make something as waqf, and to, of course, to make sure that it's the rules of it applies in a way that the waqf would be applied according to the laws of the land that the person is in, with the rules that governs the endowment, for example, and things of that nature. طيب, we'll stop here inshallah, and then we'll take the hadith, and then if you have any questions, we can go through that inshallah. Last time we took a hadith from Bulugh al-Maram. So this time inshallah ta'ala we'll take the next hadith in the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. Okay, the last hadith was hadith of Abi Hurairah, hadith number 127. This hadith, inshallah, today is 128. Very easy to memorize, inshallah. No excuse for that one, inshallah. We took this one? 128? I was going to say everybody has to memorize it. No excuses whatsoever. We need 100 people to recite this hadith. Okay, maybe next one is even the next one also no excuse, inshallah. The easiest hadith that you can ever memorize, inshallah. Hadith number 129. 129. We probably, many of us already know this hadith. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us, but oftentimes we don't follow this hadith. So we need to make sure that we are not just memorizing it. Part of what is meant by memorizing something, and this is a meaning that we need to pay attention to, even like according to the early generations of Islam. What does it mean to memorize something? We only limit it to memory, right? That you're able to say it without reading. Is that what memorization is? No. Al-hifz is not memorization. Al-hifz is what was the root meaning of al-hifz? Is to guard something, right? So you guard it, you have it, you carry it with you wherever you go. And that's why the blessings of having the Quran in your heart. You're carrying the Quran in your heart no matter where you go. You don't have to read it from another source. You have it in your heart. But the subject of al-hifz, you have it in your heart means what? If it's in the heart, that means the heart is the source of things. That means your physical actions will be according to what you have in your heart. So this is what al-hifz is all about. It's not another version of the book. Alhamdulillah, we have million copies of it. We don't need 1,000,001. But it's about ourselves to memorize, and that's why we should not use the word memorize. We should use the word hifz. We have to make hifz of these ahadith to protect it in ourselves, in our hearts, and our actions. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy and to bless our life with the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. طيب الحديث is عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من حسن إسلام المرء من حسن إسلام المرء من حسن إسلام المرء. There's no ya in husni, not min husni. No, there's a kasra on the noon. Min husni Islam al-mar. No, not min husni. Noon kasra, ni, but not ni. So min husni Islam. Min husni Islam. Min husni Islam al-mar. تركه ما لا يعني. تركه ما لا يعني. من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني. من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني. من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني. He says حديث حسن رواه الترمذي وغيره. So what the hadith says basically, and it's again from the 40 hadith, من حسن إسلام المرء, from the husn, from the goodness, from the perfection of one's Islam. Al-mar is the human being. From the goodness of the Islam of the person. Right? From his goodness of his Islam. That means some people, their Islam is good. Some people, their Islam is good. Islam is perfect. The religion of Islam is perfect. No deficiency and weakness in it. But one's Islam, you're applying the deen of Islam. Iman increases and decreases. Your? Oh, someone said something. Showing Islam in you now. So yourself, your Islam, meaning your submission to Allah. You're applying the deen of Allah. So this can be weak or can be strong. Iman increases and decreases, increases with the good deeds and decreases with the bad deeds. So the Prophet ﷺ, he says, which is an evidence that Islam itself in one person can be in different levels. So from the goodness of one's Islam, as a sign of one's Islam being strong and good, what? تركه ما لا يعني. To leave, الترك is to leave, to stay away from ما لا, what does not يعني, what does not concerns him, what does not concern the person. When you make اعتناء of something, that means you're giving so much concern for something. You are maintaining something, right? So تركه ما لا يعني, to stay away from what does not benefit you, does not concerns you. So, and this is such a comprehensive statement, and the Prophet ﷺ was given jawami al-kalim, the comprehensiveness of speech. Very simple words that you can make chapters of knowledge as a result of this. This hadith comes in many different things that people can apply. So anything that is of no benefit, when? In this world or in the hereafter? First and foremost is the hereafter. To leave what is not benefiting in the hereafter, and you can take the meaning of what's the opposite of that, which is harmful. The things that are harmful in the hereafter, sins, and of course, kufr and sins and so on, to stay away from this. That applies. And also applies if you want to go to another level, in which a person would leave, which is some of the meanings of a zuhd. And there are two levels of zuhd, obligatory zuhd versus a recommended one. If a person leaves something, even if it's haram, it's obvious. He leaves it because it doesn't concerns him, meaning of as far as the evil consequences of it. Or to leave something that is permissible or might be permissible in principle, but it might not be benefit for the person in the hereafter. A person would say, but driving a new car, is that benefiting in the hereafter? If it's permissible and you earn it from halal, and it helps you not to commit sins, but to commit evil actions, that's fine. But the excessiveness of things that applies here, and that's even, you see some of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, I don't want to take too long, but even one's bed, I don't want to sound like we're making it difficult for oneself. The authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that the firash or the bed, you have one for yourself, وفراش للمرأة, للزوجة, to the wife, and one for the guest, and the fourth one for the shaitan. Right? You have one for yourself, one for your wife, and one for the guest. And one for the wife is not that the wife sleeps in a different place than her husband, but this is something that which shows that the urf or the norm of the people can apply in this. Their norm in the times of the Arabs is that the wife, if she has to breastfeed, if she has to take care of a sick child, she does not bring the child to her husband's bed. She goes to another bed, right? So it doesn't mean that she doesn't sleep in the same bed of her husband, but this is basically, or something else extra. But this is, again, the point here is to having excessiveness of things. And of course, what does not a person have a concern? The business of others. The brother, he got a new car. What's your business in this? He purchased a new house. Where? How does it look like? How did he purchase it? Did he get promoted? Did he get another job? And especially, and again, advice for myself and the youth. They're always amazed when they see something. Where did he get this from? Or look at the car that this person is driving, or looking at people. And then with the internet and things of that nature, look at that person's watch. Oh, look, it's worth that much, or this shoes, or that. Does that concerns you really? Does it something that it's going to benefit you to know? As they say, it's none of your business, right? And it should be none of our business. If it's something that is not going to benefit us, stay away from it. It requires some patience, yes, because this is a sign. It's not an easy matter, because it's a sign of your good Islam that you leave what does not concerns you. If it's of no concern to you, stay away from it. And the opposite of that, if something concerns you, then it's a foolish thing not to give it the proper concern. So your household is your concern. You don't say, it's not of my business to know what my son's friends are. It's not of my business. It's his friends. No, it's your business. This is your child. You need to make sure that he is not doing the wrong thing, right? So to have things in the right perspective, and the matters of deen, even the excessiveness of looking at things, Again, we're living in this type of era where everything becomes distracting everyone from everything. Killing time, wasting time, making those who are of no significance in this life, they become the most important figures in this life. This person, celebrities and all, this is a huge subject. Even as ulama, they say, fudul al-nazar, to have excessiveness of looking. We're not talking about the haram looking. We're talking about just looking at things that is of no benefit. It's not going to benefit you. It's not even the benefit of relaxing. If you look at the trees, the ayat of Allah, mashallah. But looking into things that is of no concern, of no benefit, this is something to be, to be aware of it. And that's why it's something that requires for us to expand on it more, inshallah ta'ala. So because of the time, maybe we'll stop here, but we'll talk about it again, inshallah. So من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني. Say it one more time. من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني. And one of the huge subject of it, الكلام, talking too much. Categories of haram, categories of no benefit whatsoever, just waste of time in every matter that we do. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the evil within our own selves. طيب وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم ربنا بحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.